Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Nafil Academy, and thank you for attending our today's webinar on development of sensorial acuity through training for smell recovery purpose. Today, our guest speaker is Clemence Lalti Molina. She is a neuroscientist who specializes in olfaction and sensory perception. She has a master's degree in neurosciences and uses mental imagery training to increase sensory perception, helping people to recover from anosmia. She mainly works with professionals who rely on the sense of smell, but also helps children and adults who have issues with smell. So with this, I'll hand over to Clemence and she will start with her webinar.
Good evening, everybody. So today we will talk about the development of sensorial acuity through olfactory training for recovery purpose. First of all, we will discuss the significance of the sense of smell in our lives. Next, we will delve into the significance of dysosmia. I will discuss smell anatomia. And lastly, I will give you practical tips to improve your sense of smell in your daily life. Olfaction is both a physiological and a cognitive act. We say it's physiological because it is a function and a property of our organ and tissues. And we say it's cognitive because it involves the mechanism of acquiring, processing, memorizing, and utilizing our knowledge. Odorant compound can enter our olfactory system through two distinct pathways. The pathway known as orthonasal occurs through our nostril, while the pathway called orthonasal occurs through our mouth, when we are eating or drinking, for example. Once it enters our nostril or our mouth, the odorant compound encounters an olfactory receptor. An odorant compound can be specific to one or multiple receptors. If we are more sensitive to an odor, it means that we have more olfactory receptor specific to that compound or a more efficient receptor. This is what explains the variability respecting smell acuity from one individual to another. Our olfactory receptors are coded by 1 to 3% of our genome. The olfactory message is first chemical and then transformed into an electrical message. It is then directed toward a part of the brain called the olfactory bulb. You can see in the painting, it's in the blue one. Located just behind the space between our two eyes. The olfactory epithelium is the only nervous tissue in contact with the external environment. And it is one of the few tissues that can regenerate due to the presence of stem cells. In what constitutes our intelligence, there is nothing that has not first passed through our senses. The olfactory projection area in our brain are close to the limbic system, with amygdala that allows emotion management, and hippocampus that allow memory. When we talk about olfactory memory, we can make distinction between recognition memory and familiarity memory. First one, recognition memory, allow us to identify and distinguish an odor among others. For example, we can recognize cinnamon out of several spices. And familiarity memory corresponds to the perception of an odor that we can describe, but we are not able to link it to a specific memory. We seek to increase recognition memory so we improve our olfactory acuity. Certain odors can trigger vivid memory and evoke specific emotion. Therefore, olfactory perception enables us to relive past events once more. The interaction between the olfactory system and peripheral system allow long-term olfactory memory. Memory associated with odor can be stored in our brain and recalled when we are exposed to similar odor in the future. Olfactory information is synthesized and analyzed by our brain, allowing conscious perception, judgment, and language. The endocrine system and behavioral system are responsible for our instinctive response to fleeing from an odor that we perceive as dangerous, such as gas. Odors play a role in several pillars of our lives. They contribute not only to the development of our taste, but also to our cultural references and identity. For instance, the individuals in our surroundings are encoded in our brain based on the odor they emit. The importance of odor in culture and tradition can be observed across the world. Odor evoke ritual and cultural practices. Our senses of smell allows us to have intellectual openness to the world around us. The sense of smell allowed our ancestors to treat themselves using plants, but it also allowed them to avoid dangerous and toxic plants. So let's talk about dysosmia. The sense of smell is often perceived as a minor or non-essential, non-vital sense. The consequences of losing this sense are frequently underestimated. However, they are very real. Olfactory disorder can be of different types. They can be quantitative, ranging from partial loss to total loss of smell, or qualitative, odors are not perceived in the usual way, meaning we can smell lemon while we have a coffee cup in front of our nose. Partial loss of smell ability is called hyposmia, while total loss of smell is called anosmia. Another quantitative olfactory disorder is called hyperosmia. People are very sensitive to smell compounds. They can perceive odor at a low concentration and are often bothered by smell. Parosmia refers to a distortion of the sense of smell. People can perceive the smell of cigarettes instead of flower. Qualitative dysosmia include phantosmia. In this case, people can smell an odor in its absence. And finally, cacosmia refers to the perception of a bad smell, like cigarette, gasoline, garbage, in their absence. These alterations of the sense of smell have various causes: sinonasal, trauma, viral, infectious, etc. They can be diagnosed in different ways, ranging from self-assessment through questionnaire to psychophysical or neurophysiological measurements. Olfactory deficit can have various origins: a conduction disorder that disrupts the transmission of odor to the olfactory epithelium, a sensory disorder due to damage to the olfactory epithelium or olfactory nerve, or a central disorder that affects the olfactory area in our brain. Regarding post-infectious olfactory deficit, the onset of the deficit is sudden. It is more common in women, especially after 40 years old of age. The primary cause is an infection of the upper respiratory tract by bacteria, fungi, or viruses, such as rhinoviruses. Regarding sinonasal origin, olfactory deficit, the main cause are rhinosinusitis and rhinitis. And regarding post-traumatic olfactory deficit, they involve injury to the nose, face, or head. Mechanical obstruction of the nasal cavity, severing of the olfactory nerve, or central brain lesion can drastically disrupt the sense of smell. Congenital anosmia is of genetic origin. We call Kalman syndrome a congenital anosmia caused by a genetic anomaly that disrupts the development of the olfactory bulb, which is essential for odor perception, as we saw in the first image. Detecting, discriminating smell, recognizing them, and associating them with meaning are the tasks of the olfactory system. Approximately 20% of the global population suffer from olfactory deficit, whether they are mild or total, qualitative or quantitative. Anosmia, the complete absence of smell, affects 1 to 5% of the general population. The prevalence of olfactory deficit increases with age. Approximately 60% of people infected with COVID-19 experience a loss of smell. A large portion of them recover their sense of smell within 2 to 3 weeks. However, some individuals do not regain their sense of smell even after several months or years, and olfactory rehabilitation may be considered. We will now talk about main impact in people's life, the side effect of olfactory loss on the quality of life. This deficit has significant psychosocial and behavioral consequences for individuals. These effects are often ignored or downplayed, yet they can be the cause of significant behavioral changes in affected individuals. Indeed, olfactory deficit has an impact on social isolation and a decline in affect that we call anhedonia. The social and eating behavior of an individual with olfactory disorder is also impacted. Individuals with olfactory disorder are at a higher risk of depression, anxiety, eating disorder, social isolation, and relationship difficulties. The risk of household accidents also increase. Individuals affected by olfactory dysfunction have more difficulty detecting dangerous odor, face challenges in cooking, and also experience a reduction in appetite. So let's move to smell anatomia. The area of the brain responsible for odor perception is the olfactory bulb. It is closely connected to the region that govern our emotion. We call it amygdala, and our memory, we call it hippocampus. As a result, our olfactory perception influence our emotion and are linked to our memory. I will now give you some tips to improve your sense of smell in your daily routine. Before discussing exercises, it is interesting to use your daily life to enhance your olfactory perception. Every moment of the day is an invitation to detect identify, and categorize smell. Being fully aware in the present moment already provides a great opportunity for the development of sensory acuity. Curiosity is also essential for increasing perception, visiting new places, smelling new flowers, cooking with new spices, or even tasting exotic dishes. These activities, all filled with a new smell, are an exercise in themselves. Smell training provides creativity and imagination. Most of all, it increases gray matter of the brain in orbitofrontal cortex, which play a critical role in various cognitive functions such as perception, memory, attention, language, and reasoning. To increase sensory ability, we blindly identify, label, and classify smell compounds. It can be done alone, but it's much more efficient while supervised. Training teachers get olfactory vial briefcases and guide professionals to the enhancement of their own sensory acuity. This training is custom-made and allows us to visualize and manage olfactory acuity improvement. It's the same with people who need to recover from anosmia. Learning smell is like learning a new language. It promises an encounter with oneself and with others. Remember, the sense of smell is common to all, but perception is unique to each individual. Synaptic connection between the olfactory neuron keeps strengthening with experience. This phenomenon is called cerebral plasticity. We will now talk about another method to increase your sensory perception. We call it mental imagery. Olfactive mental imagery is the ability to mentally perceive a smell in its absence. Scientific researches show that mental imagery activates identical parts of the brain than in real perception, mainly the piriform cortex and neocortical association area. Mental imagery training aims to stimulate the brain function involved in olfaction. We seek to regenerate olfactory neurons. This phenomenon is called neurogenesis and also stimulate the cognitive processing of this sensory information. We will discuss this method in a while. Guidance from a professional remains the best option for conducting this type of training. By stimulating the central nervous system associated with the sense of smell, we aim to promote the circulation of information within the relevant brain area. Activation level decreases with expertise. I like to compare it with sports. Novices need to contract more of their muscle in order to make a precise gesture, while experts in such sport gain in fluidity and do not need such contraction for the same results. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, please just write it and I will try to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Clemence. Yes, guys, if you have any questions, just email it to us at info@nuffielacademy.com.sg, and we'll try our level best to answer your questions. Thank you for your time today and have a good evening. Bye-bye.